The cargo bay was dark when Captain Park Do-han entered. He walked alone, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Behind him, his crew waited on the bridge, watching the Grand Fleet form a wall of death between them and Earth. 150,000 ships. The largest armada in galactic history. Enough firepower to burn a planet to ash. And against them, one battered human battleship. Du-Han found the container in the center of the cargo bay. It was large, metal, unmarked. He stood before it for a long moment, thinking about Baek Jun-ho, the old engineer had given everything to build the Mugunghwa. His life, his last breath. And he had saved one final secret for this moment. Do-han opened the container. Inside were blueprints. Thousands of them. Detailed plans for ships like the Mugunghwa, warships and carriers, fighters and bombers, weapons and shields. Not copies of the Mugunghwa, but designs for 100 different vessels. Each one as powerful as the ship Do-han commanded. And beneath the blueprints, a recorded message. Jun-ho's face appeared on a small screen, tired but smiling. "Captain," the recording said, "if you are watching this, then I am probably dead. That is okay. I made my peace with death a long time ago. What matters is that you got home." Do-han felt tears forming in his eyes. "I spent 40 years designing these ships," Jun-ho continued. 40 years, hiding my work, waiting for the day when humanity would be ready to stop being afraid. I knew I would never see that day. I knew I would not live long enough to see the fleet I imagined. But I built the Mugunghwa anyway, hoping she would buy us enough time. The old engineer leaned closer to the camera. "Send these plans to every human colony, every station, every shipyard. Tell them to build. Tell them to build fast. And tell them this. The galaxy has kept us small for centuries. They called us weak. They called us nothing. They were wrong." Jun-ho smiled. "Show them what we really are." The recording ended. Do-han stood in the darkness, holding the blueprints, feeling the weight of 40 years of hope in his hands. Then he went to the bridge. "Broadcast this," he told the communications officer, handing over the blueprints. "Every frequency, every human station, every colony, every ship, every person with a receiver. And tell them what Jun-ho said. Tell them to build." The plans went out across the stars, and now there was nothing left to do but fight. The Grand Fleet demanded surrender. Their admiral's voice was cold and certain. "Human ship, you have caused much trouble, but it ends here. Surrender your vessel, and we will make your deaths quick. Resist, and we will destroy your planet slowly. Every city, every town, every child. We will make Earth an example for the galaxy to remember." Do-han looked at his crew. Commander Yu Nari stood at tactical, her face calm and ready. Lieutenant Ha Yoonji sat at the weapons console, her left hand steady, her missing right arm wrapped in bandages. Dr. Kwon Tae-sun stood near the door, watching with sad eyes. Ambassador Cho Yena had refused to leave, saying she wanted to witness whatever happened next. "Admiral," Do-han replied, "humanity has a message for you." He nodded to Nari. She pressed a button. Earth's defense fleet appeared on the sensors. 200 ships, old and outdated, moving to join the Mugunghwa. It was nothing compared to the Grand Fleet. It was suicide. But then Admiral Hayam Misuk appeared on the screen. She was an older woman with gray hair and a scar across her face. She had commanded Earth's forces for 20 years, always knowing they were too weak to fight, always pretending to be less than they were. "Captain Do-han," Misuk said, "we have been waiting for you. We have been waiting for a reason to stop pretending." She smiled grimly. "Let us show these aliens what humans do when they are backed into a corner." The 200 ships formed up around the Mugunghwa. It was still hopeless. Still suicide. But they would face death together. "All ships," Do-han ordered, "attack." The battle began. The Mugunwa led the charge, her weapons blazing. The kinetic accelerators fired again and again, each shot destroying an enemy ship. The spike drive tore holes in reality. The heartbreak cannon disabled dozens of vessels with each pulse, but it was not enough. The Grand Fleet pushed forward, absorbing losses, overwhelming the human ships with sheer numbers. One by one, Earth's defenders fell. The Mugunwa's shields began to fail. Warning lights covered every console. Lieutenant Ha Yunji fired until her weapons melted. Commander Yunari flew the ship through impossible maneuvers, dodging fire that should have killed them 100 times. Dr. Quan Tayson treated the wounded as they piled up in the medical bay. 30,000 enemy ships destroyed. But still they came. "Captain," Nari said quietly, "we cannot win this. We have done what we can." Don nodded. He had known this moment would come. The Mugunwa had one last weapon, one final secret that even Junho had not told them about. During the journey home, the engineering team had discovered it hidden in the ship's core. A weaponized spike drive. A suicide device that would tear a wound in space itself, destroying everything within 1,000 kilometers, including the Mugunwa. "Evacuate the crew," Dohon ordered. "Get everyone to the escape pods." "Nari, you too." Nari shook her head. "You need a pilot, and I need to see this through." "That is an order, Commander." "Then throw me in the brig." She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much pain to fear death. "I am staying." The escape pods launched. Dr. Tayson, Lieutenant Yunji, Ambassador Yena, and the rest of the crew fled toward Earth. Only Don and Nari remained on the bridge. "It has been an honor," Don said. "It has been the only thing that mattered." Nari replied. They aimed the Mugunwa. At the center of the Grand Fleet, the spike drive began. Charging. And then the sensors went. Crazy dot ships, dozens of them, hundreds, jumping into the system from every direction. Human ships. Not the old, weak vessels that Earth had been building under assembly supervision. These were new, fresh, built in secret shipyards across human space. Someone had started constructing Junho's designs years ago, hidden from the galaxy. Waiting for this moment. 2,000 human warships poured into the Sol system. "This is the HSS Liberation," a voice crackled over the radio. "Sol Shipyard reporting. We heard you needed help." "HS Revenge here," another voice added. "From the Vega construction facility. The colony they destroyed. We rebuilt. And we remembered." More voices followed. More ships. From every corner of human space, a secret fleet had been waiting. Junho's blueprints had not just been a gift for the future. They had been a signal to those who were already building. The tide turned. The human fleet crashed into the Grand Fleet like a wave of fire. Ships that had never been used in combat fought with the fury of centuries of oppression. The assembly commanders, who had never faced real resistance, began to panic. The Mugunwa led the charge. Her crew of 2 fighting alongside thousands of brothers and sisters they had never met. The Grand Fleet broke. First one ship retreated, then a dozen, then 100. The great armada that had conquered 1,000 species turned and ran. From the humans they had dismissed as weak and primitive. These Assembly Supreme Commander demanded to negotiate. Captain Dohan's response was simple. Humanity does not negotiate with slavers. We remember. We always remember. When the battle ended, 60,000 enemy ships had been destroyed. The rest scattered to the edges of the galaxy. Earth was safe. 1 year later, Captain Park Dohan stood on the rebuilt Vega colony. The same place where his wife and daughter had died. The same place where Lieutenant Ha Yunji's brother had been killed. It was green now, full of life, full of hope. The Mugunwa orbited above, scarred but unbroken. She was the flagship of humanity's new fleet, a symbol of what they had become. Commander Yunari stood beside him, finally at peace. She had stopped studying enemy tactics. She was learning how to garden instead. Lieutenant Ha Yunji taught weapons classes at the new military academy. Her prosthetic arm was better than the original. She could fire faster now, she liked to say, and sometimes, when she was alone, she finally let herself cry for her brother. Dr. Quan Taisen had written a book about their journey. He called it The Ethics of Justified Rage. It was required reading in every school on Earth. A Moran ambassador approached Dawn. The assembly is fractured, the amphibian said. Many species have declared independence. They are looking for new allies, new friends. Dohan watched children playing in the fields of the colony. Human children, safe because their parents had refused to be afraid. Tell them we are not interested in building another assembly, he said. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to conquer. Then what do you want? Dahan thought for a long time. He thought about Junho, who had given his life for a dream. He thought about his wife and daughter, who would never see this day. He thought about every human who had suffered under galactic law, every colony burned, every child taken. We want a galaxy where no one has to build a ship like the Mugamua, he said finally. We want peace. Real peace, not the kind where the strong rule the weak. A galaxy where every species is free to decide their own future. He paused. But if anyone tries to stop that dream, if anyone threatens our people or our friends, if anyone thinks they can put us back in our place, he looked up at the Mugamwa, beautiful and terrible against the stars. Tell them we remember how to fight, and we will never forget. The ambassador nodded slowly, and across the galaxy, species that had been silent for centuries began to hope. Every jump was a battle. Every star system was an ambush. The Muganha was faster than the Grand Fleet, but the assembly had ships everywhere. They could not hide. They could only fight. Captain Park Doan had stopped sleeping. Dark circles hung under his eyes. His uniform was wrinkled. He spent his days on the bridge and his nights in the medical bay, watching Chief Engineer Beek Jungho fade away. He should already be dead, Dr. Quan Taisen said quietly one night. His body is broken, but he refuses to stop. He has something keeping him alive. The cargo bay, Dohum said. He wants to know that we opened it. Then, perhaps you should. I promised I would wait until we reached Earth. Dohan looked at the old engineer's peaceful face. Even in his coma, Junho was smiling slightly. I do not break promises. The journey that should have taken 2 weeks was taking 2 months. They fought through the Cressa corridor, destroying 50 ships that tried to block their path. They escaped a gravity trap in the hollow stars by flying through an unstable nebula that should have killed them. They survived an attack by suicide drones that nearly overloaded their shields. And slowly, painfully, they got closer to home. Commander Yunari did not sleep either. She lived at her tactical station, planning their route, predicting enemy movements, finding gaps in the assembly's forces. Her eyes were red from staring at screens. Her hands shook from too much coffee and too little rest. One night, Lieutenant Hayunji found her crying in the observation deck. I am sorry, Nari said, wiping her eyes. I did not want anyone to see. Yunji sat down beside her. You do not have to apologize. We are all breaking. Nari was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I have never told anyone what happened when I was a prisoner. You do not have to tell me. I want to. Nari took a deep breath. They wanted information about Earth's defenses. I did not have any, but they did not believe me. They hurt me for 2 years, trying to make me talk. She held up her scarred arms. Every day, they would ask questions. Every day, I would say nothing. Every night, they would punish me for my silence. How did you survive? Hate. Nari's voice was flat. I stayed alive because I hated them more than I wanted to die. I promised myself that I would live, and I would escape, and I would make them regret ever touching me. She laughed bitterly. They taught me to be what I am. Every tactic I know, I learned by watching what they did to me and thinking about how I would do it better. Yunji was silent for a moment. Then she said, "My brother was 13 when he died." Nari looked at her. He was on the colony ship during the Vega incident. I was supposed to be with him, but I was sick. A fever. I stayed home, and he went ahead. Yunji's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. I watched the news when the ship was destroyed. I saw his name on the list of the dead. And I thought, if I had been there, maybe I could have saved him. Maybe I could have done something. You could not have, I know. But I still feel like I should have tried. Yunji looked out the window at the stars. That is why I volunteered for this ship. That is why I smile when I fire the weapons. Because every ship I destroy, every enemy I kill, I pretend it is the ones who killed my brother. I know it does not make sense. I know it does not bring him back. But it is the only way I know how to keep living. Nari put her arm around the younger woman. We are both broken, she said. But we are still here. We are still fighting. That has to count for something. They sat together in the darkness, watching the stars go by. The news from across the galaxy was both good and bad. The good news was that humanity's defiance had inspired others. The Marn had openly declared support for Earth. 3 other species had joined them. Small rebellions were breaking out on assembly worlds. The galaxy was fracturing. The bad news was that the Grand Fleet was getting closer to Earth every day. 150,000 ships, the largest armada in galactic history, moving like a wall of death toward humanity's homeworld. And there was only one way to reach Earth before them. The Jin Corridor. It was a narrow passage between 2 black holes. The gravity was so extreme that most ships could not survive the journey. The assembly knew this. They had placed 3,000 ships at the entrance, creating a blockade that should have been impossible to break. We cannot go around, Commander Nari reported. Any other route will take too long. We must go through. Can we fight 3,000 ships? Dohan asked. No, we can fight maybe 500. After that, our shields will fail. Dohan looked at the tactical display. 3,000 red dots blocking their path home. His crew was exhausted. His ship was damaged. His engineer was dying. I have an idea, he said slowly, but it is insane. All of your ideas are insane, Nari said. That is why they work. The Magunghwa approached the Jin corridor at full speed. The assembly blockade powered their weapons. 3,000 ships prepared to destroy one. And then the Magunghwa broadcast a message on all frequencies. One question, transmitted in every language known to the galaxy. How many of you are truly free? The blockade hesitated. Some ships were crewed by assembly member species, true believers in the galactic order. But many were from subjugated species, forced to serve, given no choice. Captain Dawn continued, We are not your enemy. The assembly is your enemy. They have kept you weak and afraid for centuries. They told you that you could not fight back, that resistance was impossible. We are proving them wrong. Every day, we prove them wrong. He paused. I am not asking you to join us. I am asking you to step aside. Let us pass. When we reach Earth, we will show the galaxy that the assembly can be defeated. And then you can decide for yourselves what kind of future you want. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, ships began to move. 400 vessels from subjugated species turned their backs on the blockade. They did not join the Magunghwa. They simply stopped fighting. It was enough. All weapons, Dohan shouted. clear a path. The battle was brutal and short. The Mugunwa punched through the weakened blockade like a fist through paper. Lieutenant Ha-Yunji fired until her console sparked with overload warnings. Commander Yunari flew them through a maze of enemy fire with impossible precision. They took a direct hit to the weapons bay. Yunji was at her station when the explosion happened. The force threw her across the room. When she opened her eyes, her right arm was gone below the elbow. She did not scream. She looked at the wound, looked at the battle still raging outside, and said, "Someone get me to the backup station. I can still fire with my left hand." Dr. Quan Tayson was there in seconds, stopping the bleeding, giving her painkillers. "You need surgery," he said. Later, Yunji stood up, swaying. "After we get home." They reached the backup weapons station. She fired the last shot that destroyed the enemy flagship. Then, finally, she passed out. The Mugunwa burst through the Jing corridor and into clear space. Behind them, the subjugated ships that had stood aside now turned on the remaining assembly forces. A civil war had begun in their wake. Dahan stood on the bridge, watching Earth appear on the sensors. Home. They had made it. Then he saw what was waiting for them. The Grand Fleet had arrived first. 150,000 ships formed a wall between the Mugunwa and Earth. And in the medical bay, Chief Engineer Baek Junho opened his eyes one last time. "Tell them," he whispered to Dr. Tayson. "Tell them to open the cargo bay. Let her fly." His heart stopped. The greatest engineer humanity had ever known was gone. But his final gift was waiting. 6 months. 847 enemy ships destroyed. 3 slave colonies freed. 11 assassination attempts survived. The Mugunwa had become more than a ship. She had become a legend. Stories spread across the galaxy. Some said the human battleship was crewed by ghosts. Some said she could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and vanish before anyone could respond. Some said her captain had made a deal with dark forces. The truth was simpler and more frightening. Humans had finally stopped being afraid. Captain Park Dohan stood in his quarters, looking at a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked places where the assembly had concentrated their forces. Blue dots marked allies, species brave enough to support humanity. There were more blue dots now than there had been 6 months ago. The Moran had been first. They were peaceful amphibians who had nearly been wiped out by the assembly 300 years ago. They had survived by being quiet, obedient, invisible. But they remembered what it felt like to fight. When the Mugunwa visited their space, they offered fuel and supplies and intelligence about enemy movements. "We cannot fight," the Moran ambassador had told Doan. "We have no weapons, no ships. But we can help you fight, and we will pray for your victory." 3 other species followed. The Kessin, who had been forced to give up their homeworld. The Trell, whose children were taken as servants for assembly officials. The Vorn, who had simply been forgotten and abandoned on the edge of known space. They could not send ships, but they could send information. And information was almost as valuable as weapons. Commander Yunari had become famous in her own right. Enemy commanders spoke her name with fear. They called her the Ghost Woman, the one who could predict their movements before they made them. She spent 18 hours a day studying enemy tactics, looking for weaknesses, planning attacks that should have been impossible. "The assembly thinks in patterns," she explained to Lieutenant Ha-Yunji one evening. "They have been winning for so long that they forgot how to adapt. They do the same things over and over because those things always worked before." She smiled coldly. "They have never fought anyone like us." Yunji nodded. She had changed in 6 months. The eager young woman who wanted to make things explode had become something harder, something sharper. She still smiled when she fired the weapons, but now there was no joy in it. Just grim satisfaction. "When do you think they will catch us?" Yunji asked. They will try soon, Nari said. They are setting a trap. I can feel it. The trap came 3 days later. A distress signal appeared on their sensors. A human refuge transport, stranded in a system called Void's Edge. The message was desperate. Engines damaged. Life support failing, 200 civilians aboard. Including children. Duhan knew it was a trap. The signal was too perfect, too convenient. No human transport would be that far from safe space. The assembly wanted them to come. They had probably been planning this for months. He went anyway. It could be real, he told his officers. There's maybe a 2% chance that signal is genuine. I will not gamble with human lives. You will gamble with our lives, Chief Engineer Baek Junho said quietly. The old man looked tired. He had not been sleeping well lately. The ship's systems were working perfectly, but Junho seemed to be getting weaker as the ship got stronger. Yes, Doan admitted. I will gamble with our lives, because that is what we signed up for. Those civilians did not. They jumped to Void's Edge. 500 assembly warships decloaked around them. The trap was beautiful in its cruelty. The ships had been hidden behind sensor-blocking fields, waiting in perfect silence. Now they formed a sphere around the Mugunwa, weapons powered, shields raised. There was no escape route, no place to run. Human vessel. The assembly admiral's voice boomed through their speakers. You are surrounded. Your journey ends here. Surrender and your crew will receive fair trials before execution. Fair trials. Execution. Doan almost laughed. Nari, he said calmly. Execute Plan 7. Commander Yoon Nari had been waiting for this moment. She had known the trap was coming. She had prepared a counter-trap. All ships, she broadcast on an open channel. This is Commander Yoon Nari of the Mugunwa. I know some of you are from subjugated species. I know some of you are here because you had no choice. I am offering you a choice now. Stand down, and we will not fire on you. Fight us, and you will die. Some ships hesitated. Not many, but enough. Now, Nari said. Chief Junho, activate the spite drive. In the engine room, Baek Junho pressed a sequence of buttons he had never used before. The spite drive hummed to life. Reality bent around the Mugunwa. A hole opened in space itself, a wound in the fabric of existence. 40 enemy ships were caught in the effect. They did not explode. They did not break apart. They simply folded into the hole and vanished, dragged into a collapsing pocket dimension from which nothing could escape. The remaining ships opened fire. The Mugunwa's shields held, but barely. Warning lights flashed across every console. This was more firepower than they had ever faced. Yunji! Dawn shouted. The new weapon. Lieutenant Ha Yunji activated the heartbreak cannon for the first time. A wave of energy pulsed outward from the Mugunwa, invisible to the eye, but devastating in effect. Every ship it touched lost power. Engines died. Weapons went silent. Life support failed. 80 ships went dark in an instant. The battle became chaos. Ships firing in all directions. Explosions lighting up the darkness. The Mugunwa pushing forward, her weapons blazing. Her crew fighting with everything they had. Then a lucky shot hit the engine room. Chief Engineer Baek Junho was standing at his station when the wall exploded behind him. The blast threw him across the room. When the damage control teams found him, he was barely breathing. Keep her flying, he whispered as they carried him to the medical bay. Keep my girl flying. Dr. Kwon Taeson worked frantically to save him. The injuries were severe. Internal bleeding. Broken bones. Burns covering half his body. The old engineer should have been dead already. He was holding on through pure stubbornness. On the bridge, the battle raged on. Commander Nari took over engine control, while fighting the tactical battle at the same time. Lieutenant Yunji fired until her weapons overheated, then fired some more. Captain Dohan gave orders calmly, hiding the fear in his heart. Finally, after 3 hours of fighting, the remaining enemy ships retreated. The Mugunwa had won. 312 enemy ships destroyed or disabled. But the cost was high, and as they searched the wreckage for the refugee transport, they found something unexpected. The distress signal had been real. Hidden among the debris was a small ship with 37 human survivors, including a face Dohan recognized. Ambassador Cho Yana, humanity's representative to the Galactic Assembly. She had been arrested 3 months ago for inciting rebellion. But here she was, alive, with intelligence that would change everything. "They are not just hunting you," Yana told Dawan, her voice shaking. "The Grand Fleet is not coming for the Mugunwa. They are going to Earth. They are going to destroy our homeworld to punish humanity for your defiance." Dawan felt the blood drain from his face. "How long do we have?" he asked. 3 months. Maybe less. 3 months to cross half the galaxy. 3 months to reach Earth before the Grand Fleet. 3 months with a ship that was barely holding together and an engineer who might not survive the night. In the medical bay, Pete Junho opened his eyes. Dr. Tayson was by his side. "Captain," Junho whispered, "I need to tell him something." When Doan arrived, the old engineer grabbed his hand with surprising strength. "In the cargo bay," Junho said, "there is something I hid. Do not open it until you reach Earth. Promise me. What is it?" "A gift for humanity." Junho's eyes were fading. "I built the Mugunwa to buy us time. What is in the cargo bay will give us a future." He squeezed Dohan's hand. "Get home, Captain. Get home and open my gift." Dohan promised. On the bridge, he gave the order. The Mugunwa turned toward Earth. The race to save humanity had begun. 3 weeks after leaving Earth, the Mugunwa was the most famous ship in the galaxy. Not famous in a good way. Famous like a plague. Famous like a curse. The Galactic Assembly had put a price on her head. 12 trillion credits. Enough money to buy a small planet. Enough money to make every bounty hunter, every pirate, and every military fleet in known space start looking for one black ship with human writing on her hull. 47 species sent hunter fleets. Some wanted the money. Some wanted the glory of killing the ship that dared to challenge the Assembly. Some just wanted to prove that humans were still weak, still small, still nothing compared to the great civilizations that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Captain Don sat in his command chair and watched the census. His crew worked silently around him. They all knew that the first battle was coming. They all knew that everything depended on what happened next. "Contact," Lieutenant Ha Yunji said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking slightly. 12 ships. Pelori Dominion. Doan felt his jaw tighten. The Pelori. Of all the species in the galaxy, the Pelori were the ones humanity hated most. They were insectoid creatures, tall and thin, with too many arms and eyes that showed no emotion. For 50 years, they had been raiding human border colonies. They took prisoners. They took slaves. They took children. The Assembly did nothing. The raids were legal under galactic law. Humans were a minor species. Minor species had no rights that mattered. "They are surrounding us," Commander Yunari reported. Her tactical display showed 12 red dots forming a circle around the Mugunwa. Standard Pelori attack formation. "They will fire together in approximately 2 minutes. "What are they saying?" Doan asked. The communications officer played the message. The Pelori commander's voice was cold and clicking. "Human vessel, you have violated 17 galactic laws. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Your crew will be taken to work in the mining colonies." This is your only warning. Mining colonies. Do-Han had seen pictures of what happened to slaves in Pelori mining colonies. They worked until they died. The average lifespan was 3 months. Sir, Yoonji said, permission to target? Not yet. Do-Han stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. Through the main window, he could see the Pelori ships. They were elegant in a terrible way, like beautiful insects ready to bite. Let them fire first. I want everyone watching to see who started this. The wait felt like forever. 2 minutes, 3. Then the Pelori ships opened fire. Plasma bursts lit up the darkness of space. Blue and white balls of energy slammed into the Mugunwa from all directions. This was the weapon that the assembly considered devastating. This was the weapon that had destroyed human colony ships, human stations, human homes. The Mugunwa did not even shake. Nari checked her readings twice before she spoke. Shields at 99%. No damage. The bridge was silent. Everyone had known, in theory, that their shields were strong. But knowing and seeing were different things. They had just taken a full attack from 12 warships and felt nothing. Do-Han turned to his weapons officer. Lieutenant Ha, 1 shot. Main gun. The flagship? Yoonji smiled. It was the first real smile Do-Han had seen from her. Yes, sir. She pressed 1 button. The kinetic accelerator fired. A single rod of tungsten, 1 meter long, accelerated to 30% of the speed of light in less than a second. It crossed the distance to the Pelori flagship, so fast that the light from the shot arrived at the same time as the damage. The Pelori flagship was there. Then it was not. The rod passed through the ship without slowing down. The energy transfer was so extreme that the ship did not explode normally. It simply came apart. Metal turned to gas. Systems failed instantly. 1 moment, 300 Pelori crew members were alive. The next moment, they were scattered atoms floating in the void. The 11 remaining ships stopped firing. Do-Han imagined the Pelori commanders staring at their screens, trying to understand what had just happened. Their flagship had not been destroyed. It had been erased. Open a channel, Do-Han ordered. All frequencies. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Do-Han spoke slowly, making sure every word was clear. Pelori Fleet. This is Captain Park Do-Han of the HSS Mugunwa. You came here to hunt us. You came here to take us as slaves. He paused. You were wrong. He looked at the sensor display. The 11 ships were not moving. They were afraid. Good. I want you to leave this place. I want you to go back to your homes and tell everyone what you saw today. Tell the assembly. Tell the other species. Tell anyone who thinks humans are weak. His voice dropped lower, harder. Tell them we remember every colony you raided. Every child you took. Every family you destroyed. Tell them that we have been quiet for 50 years because we were building something. Now it is built. Now we are coming. He nodded to the communications officer. The channel closed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Pelori ships turned and ran. They jumped to faster than light speed so quickly that they left energy trails in their wake. The bridge erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other. Someone was crying. Someone was laughing. Lieutenant Ha Yoonji was staring at her weapons console with tears running down her face, whispering something that Do-Han could not hear. A prayer, maybe. Or a message to her dead brother. Only Dr. Kwon Taeson did not celebrate. He stood in the corner of the bridge, watching Do-Han with careful eyes. Later, when the excitement had calmed, Taeson found Do-Han alone in his quarters. 300 Pelori died today, the doctor said quietly. Yes, Do-Han agreed. Do you feel anything? Do-hun was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "I feel like it was not enough. I feel like it will never be enough." He looked at his hands. "Does that make me a monster?" Tayson sat down across from him. "It makes you human. We remember our pain. We carry it with us. The question is not whether you feel anger. The question is what you do with it. I am using it to protect Earth, and to hurt those who hurt you." "Yes," Do-hun admitted. "That too." Tayson nodded slowly. "Then I will stay with you. Because someone needs to remind you where the line is. Someone needs to make sure you do not become what you hate." Do-hun looked at the old doctor. "And if I cross that line?" "Then I will tell you," Tayson said simply. "And you will listen. Because you are still a good man, Park Do-hun. Angry, yes. Hurt, yes. But still good." The next morning, reports came flooding in from across the galaxy. The Pelori survivors had talked. News of the battle spread like fire. Species that had laughed at humanity were suddenly quiet. Species that had ignored humanity were suddenly paying attention. And the Galactic Assembly made a decision. The Grand Fleet would be mobilized. All 200,000 ships. Every weapon they had. Every soldier they could gather. One human ship had embarrassed them. One human ship had shown that the Assembly was not as powerful as they pretended. This could not be allowed. This had to be stopped. They were coming for the Maganwa. They were coming for Earth, and in her command chair, Commander Yunari read the intelligence reports and smiled grimly. "They are afraid," she said. "Good. Afraid enemies make mistakes." The hunt was no longer for the Maganwa. The hunt was now for all of humanity. But humanity, for the first time in 50 years, was ready to fight back. The message came at midnight. Captain Park Do-hun was sitting alone in his small apartment in the Seoul Orbital Station when his screen lit up with red letters. Priority 1. Eyes only. He read it 3 times before he believed it. He was being given command of a ship that should not exist. Do-hun was 45 years old. He had served in the Earth Navy for 23 years. He had fought pirates, escorted diplomats, and watched helplessly as aliens destroyed human colonies under the protection of galactic law. His wife and daughter had been on one of those colonies. The Vega incident, they called it. An accident, the Galactic Assembly ruled. No punishment for the aliens who fired. No justice for the 3,000 humans who died. That was 7 years ago. Do-hun had not smiled since now he stood in the shuttle, traveling to the edge of the solar system. The coordinates led to an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, far from any shipping lanes, far from any alien sensors. When the shuttle entered a hidden hangar, Do-hun finally saw what humanity had been building in secret. The ship was enormous, 12 kilometers long. Her hull was black and covered with weapons that Do-hun did not recognize. She looked like something from a nightmare, all sharp angles and hidden power. The name on her side was written in Korean, Maganhwa, the Rose of Sharon, the national flower of Korea, a symbol of strength that blooms even in hard times. Beautiful, is she not? Do-hun turned to see an old man walking toward him. The man was thin and tired, with white hair and oil stains on his uniform. But his eyes were bright with pride. "I am Baek Jun-ho," the old man said. "I designed her. Every wire, every plate, every weapon. She is my life's work." "She is illegal," Do-hun said quietly. "The Assembly banned ships like this centuries ago." Jun-ho smiled. "The Assembly bans many things. They ban strong weapons so weak species stay weak. They ban fast engines so no one can run from their fleets. They ban hope so no one dreams of freedom." He put his hand on the cold metal of the hull. "I built this ship because I am tired of asking permission to survive." Do-hun understood. He had been tired for 7 years. The crew was already aboard. Do-han met them one by one as he walked through the massive corridors of the Mugunghwa. His first officer was Commander Yunari. She was 38, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much. Do-han knew her file. She had been captured by aliens during a diplomatic mission and held prisoner for 2 years. The report said she escaped by killing 6 guards with a broken food tray. She did not talk about what happened during those 2 years. She did not need to. The scars on her arms told the story. "Captain," she said, saluting, "I have studied every battle the Assembly has ever fought. I know how they think. I know how they die." The weapons officer was young. Lieutenant Ha Yunji was only 26, but she had requested this assignment with such passion that the admirals could not refuse her. When Do-han shook her hand, he noticed she was smiling. "Is something funny, Lieutenant?" he asked. "No, sir," she said. "I am just happy to finally be somewhere I can be useful." Her smile did not reach her eyes. Later, Do-han would learn that her younger brother had died in the Vega incident. She was supposed to be on that colony ship with him. She missed the flight because she was sick. She had been waiting 7 years for a chance to make someone pay. The ship's doctor was Dr. Quan Tayson, a gentleman of 61 who had spent his life healing soldiers after battles. "I joined because someone needs to remember that we are still human," he told Do-han, "even when we do terrible things." Do-han nodded. He was glad to have a conscience on board. He was not sure he had one anymore. Chief Engineer Baek Junho gave them a tour of the ship's weapons. The main guns were kinetic accelerators that fired metal rods at 30% of the speed of light. One shot could punch through a planet. The secondary weapons were fusion lances that could cut enemy ships in half from 1,000,000 kilometers away. The shields could absorb enough damage to destroy a small moon. "And this," Junho said, pointing to a strange device in the engine room, "is my favorite creation. I call it the spike drive." "What does it do?" Nari asked. Junho's smile was not kind. "It makes holes in reality. Very painful holes. For whoever is chasing us." The ship was a monster. The ship was beautiful. The ship was everything the galaxy feared. 3 days after Do-han took command, the message came from Earth. The Galactic Assembly had learned about the Mugunghwa. Someone had talked. Someone always talked. The Assembly's demand was simple: surrender the ship immediately or face the consequences. Every treaty humanity had signed would be cancelled. Every protection would be removed. Every human in the galaxy would become a target. Earth's government met in emergency session. The vote was close. Many wanted to give up the ship and beg for mercy. They remembered what happened to other species that defied the Assembly. Entire planets burned. Entire species erased from history. But in the end, the vote went the other way. Humanity chose defiance. The order came to Captain Do-han at exactly midnight, 1 week after he first saw the Mugunghwa. He stood on the bridge, surrounded by his crew, and opened the sealed envelope that contained his true mission. "We are to leave the solar system immediately," he announced. His voice was steady, but his heart was pounding. "We are to demonstrate to the galaxy what humanity is capable of. We are to become the most wanted ship in known space. And we are to remind every species that ever hurt us, ever ignored us, ever laughed at us." He looked at his crew. At Nari, who had survived torture. At Yunji, who had lost her brother. At Junho, who had given everything to build this ship. At Tayson, who would heal them when they broke. "We are to remind them that humans remember," Do-han finished. "We always remember." The engines of the Mugunghwa roared to life. The greatest warship ever built by human hands slipped out of the asteroid and into the darkness between stars behind them. Earth held its breath. Ahead of them, a galaxy waited to learn what humanity truly was. The hunt was about to begin.